A National Book Award nominee, she won honors in the Discovery the Nation and Rita Dove Poetry Awards. Ayers' most recent poetry collections are When All Else Fails, The Poetry Box, 2023, and Overtures, Kelsey Books, 2023. Her ninth full-length collection, The Autobiography of Rain, is forthcoming from Fernwood Press in autumn of 2024. She lives with her husband and several fur babies on the Oregon coast in a town known for its barking sea lions. Her favorite color is the swirl of Van Gogh's The Starry Night. Cat mama, dog mama, sky watcher, recovering coffee addict, former New Yorker, Lana writes in a room over the garage where she is right now. Lana leads generative writing workshops in the Amherst method, helps poets assemble their own collections, facilitates a Zoom poetry book club, and manages 3 poetry presses, and she doesn't have a moment to herself. Obviously, she spends entirely too many hours watching HGTV and solving cryptograms with her spouse in Newport, Oregon, a town famous for its, I already said that. I already said that I'm being repetitious. So nice to see you and meet you, Lana, and hear your work.
Thank you so much, Dale. I'm so honored that you invited me, and I am delighted by all the faces in the audience I know and the new faces I hope to get to know. Thank you for coming tonight. I am so grateful to Penny for agreeing to read to me. I have to say that Penny Harter has been a poetry idol of mine for a very, very long time, and I have admired her work so much. And she's not just an amazing writer, she is an amazing human being. I think I wrote this to her in email, but many years ago, I attended a haiku writers conference in Seabeck, Washington, and Penny was there. And I was new to haiku and pretty dreadful at it. I'm still pretty dreadful at it. Haiku are too much for me. It's such a high art form. And she that, and I will always be a fan of her poems. So thank you, Penny, for agreeing to read with me. I think my internet is getting unstable, so I'm going to give me a second before I read to turn off a few windows, which I think that will help my connection. I hopefully can do that. I'm going to just shut down some windows here, and that perhaps will make the connection a little more stable. I hope it's not the storm. Our local storm is mostly past. Can you guys all hear me? Am I frozen? Can you guys hear me? Yes? Okay. All right. Well, I closed a whole bunch of windows, and hopefully that allows me to give this reading. I have to say, in approaching what to read tonight, I had a really difficult time because of what's happened in Israel with Hamas, and just being so affected by all of the news about that, and feeling like my poems can't really live up to the situation we're going through now in the world, in Ukraine, and all the other horrific things in the world. But then I really thought to myself, I believe in poetry, and I believe poetry heals people's lives and helps us be better human beings. So I owe it to myself to do this reading. I'm going to start with a poem that was actually inspired by, if I can find it. No, I'm not finding it. Okay. Was inspired by Ilya Kaminsky, and it's sort of the closest thing that I can read to some of my feelings about what's going on in the world. And it's after Ilya's poem, Deaf Republic 14. It's called Women Are Refugees. All women are running toward borders, fleeing, rifles aimed between our shoulder blades, soldiers dogging us like edicts, gray wall a smoking curtain of gunpowder governments. Some of us flee with children in tow, their fingers twined with ours like threadbare rope. Some babes knotted into slings hung over our heavy hearts. We are a poverty of laughter, tears that can be lip red, bruises rouge our faces, along with extremist heat, intolerant cold. Our possessions, however meager or majestic, useless as ears at a convention of conservatives. We have tired over the years of steady moonlit movement, and though our final crossing is yet a ways off, we are drowning in the misty fire of raindrops, igniting in the scorch of the ever-ready, unlit match. And I'm going to change the tenor quite a bit and go back to my childhood. The moon has no face. Even as a child, I understood the moon was not mine alone to claim. Sleepless nights, when I snuck from the halls of snoring inhabitants, I sought her out, strolled our backyard back and forth, whispering up my melancholy secrets into the moon's daffodil skirts. She heard me, though she remained silent, pretended indifference, and continued to shine. Stormy nights, my bedroom windows streaked with dark tears like reflections of my own griefs, tragic books I'd memorized from experience. All these years since being in that purgatory house, I've delivered my insomnia onto paper, pens striking pages like an always-on filling nozzle at a chicken soup factory, can after weepy can. Sometimes I listen to Leonard Cohen as words flow, and instead of the faceless moon, a photo of my grandma smiles out at me from a dusty silver frame on my desk. I wonder about this need to keep telling everyone my suffering. Does that make me a narcissist, a masochist, or merely a foolish, blundering poet? And I've been thinking, I guess, more so about having Jewish heritage. And so I'm going to read a couple more grandmother poems. This one is about my paternal grandmother. It's called Lost and Found. I think about the sky I looked to for help that hot August day when I was 8, lost, wandering in the woods surrounding my grandmother's cabin. How skies blue became a teacher, saying, look up, see what brings your eyes bliss. How pine trees, no longer a fortress, turned into mothers, their downy limbs signaling, we're ready to hold you. How birds fluttered feathers above me to demonstrate joy springs from movement. I stopped looking for a way out. Instead, ran, spun, danced, circle upon circle, until I found myself in a clearing. At its center, a broad maple, the gash in its bark, a welcoming smile I traced with my fingertips as gray clouds blew over and the first fat raindrops began to fall, warm as soup. All and everything rippled beneath my skin. The sky, the trees, the birds, the changing light, and my feet knew where to go. So I circled again and again until I arrived at grandmother's home, just in time for dinner, sweet corn steam wafting out the screen door. Where have you been, Grandma asked, greeting me with a hug as I stepped inside. To the center of the universe, I said, and back here again at the center. Um, this next one is a poem that I wrote during the quarantine, the early quarantine of the pandemic, but I think it's applicable for all times. And it's called Permissions During Quarantine and Other Times. Be a lender of generosity. Be a borrower of hope. Snow on someone's parade to give it extra sparkle. Put all your good eggs in one basket and leave it for a neighbor. Broken eggs work fine for souffles. Make lemon cake from lemons. Have your cake and eat it in 2 servings. Fight fire with water. Feed fever with cold. Ice cream is the best revenge. Blow out the candles and embrace the darkness. Let sleeping dogs dream. Let dead horses lie in state. Let the live horses choose his own cart. Change horses midstream to give them rest. Shut the stable door to keep out the draft. Kiss a gift horse on the mouth. Kiss the hand that feeds you. Better sorry than regret not trying. Refurbish any burned bridges. Walk loudly and carry a small purse. Leap and look to see where you're going. Let the grass grow between your toes. Count all your hatchlings. Kill no birds with stones. Put pearls on pigs to gussy them up. Make molehills into majestic mountains. Make a splash rocking the boat. Pacify the apple cart. Swirl the baby in the bathwater, but only if she likes it. Put off until tomorrow and do less today. Stay in the moment. Do unto others kindness, no matter how they do unto you. And I had a friend who always chided me about writing such dark poems, such negative poems. And the other thing about her is that she had terrible luck as far as romance goes until she was in her 50s. But I wrote her this poem as a kind of a blessing. So this is called No Running with Scissors for Tammy. This is the blacklist poem, rosy as the heart tattoo emblazoned across your chest. No sob story here, no death. Shadows are banned, no hint of rain. This is the towering ice cream cone poem where you catch every luscious drip with the tip of your tongue. Sweet relief. All traffic lights wink griefless green in ideal rhythm to keep you cruising. All your favorite tunes booming, windows down, wind playing tag with your perfect hair. Carefree sky blue sky, offset by lasting rainbows, offer endless selfie moments as cardinals alight on both your shoulders. Inhale the baking bread aromas rising from ovens in every kitchen on every easy street as you're frolicking headlong toward the lover of your dreams. Arms wide, waiting where white chocolate waterfalls tumble from Bavarian chocolate mountains that flow into milk chocolate pools. Nude and rollicking, weightless with your soulmate, you'll live on sweet, anti-calorie, anti-cavity love, while dogs of every breed join paws in the marvelous moonlight, baying romantic songs until the alarm clock never goes off. Nope, not in this poem. Winning lottery ticket in your back pocket. This is your happily ever after poem. And you deserve it all. Truly you do, dear one. And I'm happy to say she has found love. And I'm going to switch books now and go to When All Else Fails. And I'm going to read a few poems from this one. And this is another grandma poem because I'm just thinking about my ancestry tonight. All childhood summers blend into one. Bubby Zelda's bungalow in Rock Hill, New York. where the long, dry grass blazed of its own light, was a kingdom of throaty, bristling life. Frogs I chased through muddy bogs, crickets, black harps rarely seen, grasshoppers that often landed on my knees, and too many kinds of flies, mosquitoes, bees. Where has that girl gone who could spend hours without need of a single word? Is she here now? Only in the gleaming white spaces between the squished bug marks letters make on a page. I went to an MFA, low residency MFA program, and I had a mentor who said, "You're not allowed to write poems about your grandparents." That was just his rule. And so I did nothing but write poems about my grandparents. This poem is for my mother, who was a 4-pack-a-day smoker and for most of her life. And she did develop breast cancer later in life and was going to have a mastectomy. And one of the tests that they do before you go into surgery is they take an x-ray and look at your lungs and see, are you going to be able to survive the surgery? Well, they looked at my mother's lungs, who was at the time in her late 70s, and said, "Your lungs are clean as a whistle." Really? 4-pack-a-day? Clean as a whistle? Anyway, that's just, I don't know, some kind of miracle, I guess, but probably contributed to the breast cancer. Mm-hmm. This poem is for my mother. It's called Beacon. It's actually for my mother, with thanks to Dorianne Locks, who saw an earlier version of it in a workshop. So it's got Dorianne in it now. Smoked like a chimney is a cliche, a lazy simile, Dorianne said. Mother, you kissed the bleached bone cancer sticks to your lips more times than there are stars in the universe to be counted. Knowing, but needing, greedy needing that pure elation, that nicotine goddess of awe, beating her mentholated drums into your mouth, onto your tongue, your lungs latching on like black sponges to all the toxins. But fuck old age. Those blinking butts held your hand through every frustration, every loss, every ambivalence, every rage, every hair-pulling, stab in the chest, excruciating moment in life. There for you, stood by you, even sweetened the sweetest coffee and pie moments, made those glow brighter, reminding you of roller skating as a kid, hopscotching, watching clouds change shapes, erasing adult anxiety for a few precious seconds as you huddled in a doorframe in the rain, smoking your unsettled being into calm. You knew the risks, but loved how each breath burned down to ash, expelled sneaky, ethereal dancers into the air. You stared up to watch their rise to oblivion, then lit up another torch, and another and another. You, a lighthouse for the living and the damned, which, let's face it, is all of us. So no regrets. And this next one is a poem called Life Wolf, dedicated to Chaim Zev, who is my newly discovered, long dead great-grandfather. And it's kind of a poem of the imagination, and it's in 5 parts. 1, I never imagined you, great-grandfather, not once in over 5 decades. You, one of the many amorphous beings called Jews, called unsanctioned, called dirty, swept away in the great Nazi cleanse of the Holocaust. You, without a face, without a name, without a town, without a grave. Now, thanks to cousins' intense search, your name chimes in my ears, an ancestral bell, Chaim Zev, Hebrew, meaning life wolf. and tears come because you are not 6 million. You are the one who is mine, my own kin. I am blood of your blood, bone of your bone. 2. Chaim Zev, in your 75th year, hair silver as a wolf, beard flowing long over your chest, back stooped from years of labor, hand knuckling around a cane, unsteady down a gravel lane of tiny Opata, Poland, a river flowing through the village. Your voice is raspy in my imagination, comes forward with a cough. Kindala, you say. I see you, great-grandfather, face pale as milk and lined as the riverbed, eyes that are flowing water. You are making your way toward me. I make my way towards you. 3. Life wolf, great-grandpa, I embrace the possibility of you, your black coat scent of tobacco, road dust, camphor, your breath rank with the fish you caught yourself. Honest, safe, alive, warm breath exhaled into a sunny day. But your last breath, was it by rifle? A shovel to the back of the skull? Was it the long cattle car ride to slow extinction? Your breath has been here nearly 2 centuries, dispatched over the earth, breath that has been my sky, though I often forgot to look up for it, forgot that your breath has nested all this time in my own chest, filtered through my heart. 4. Chaim Zev, I see your face in the broken mirror of time, and my face, looking back at you, is lit by your eyes, blue as the Opatau River, a blue even the injustices of history could not extinguish. 5. Dear great-grandfather, I sit across an imagined Sabbath table from you as you bless the challah. Bless all in attendance. Bless God, even bless the years and distance. The white tablecloth is frayed. Your fingers tap out the blessing as you sing in Hebrew. Your accent is foreign in my ears, but the melody of your voice is the rhythm of my life. And this last poem is yet another grandma poem. This is for my other grandmother, my mother's mother. And it's after a poem by the same title from the poet Joyce Sutphin. It's called The Last Things I'll Remember. The forsythia hedge that made a twiggy fence between yards all winter, yellow stars bursting forth for a few warm breaths of late March. The leggy rose bush that only ever bloomed a bud or two, but the scent of those heirloom roses, like a better world I hoped someday to grow into. Lying on the hood of my Dodge in the field, away from the lights of town to view the Perseids, that summer I was broken yet again, and the cosmos showed me how ephemeral flashes of existence burn and shine, but last a lifetime in the heart. The dream I had as a child, where my grandma Sarah had become triplets, all 3 of her decked out in ball gowns, pastel, sequined pink, mint, and lemon chiffon, all swaying, their brown eyes glowing golden, singing, "Good night, my angel," voices like monarch butterflies tickling my ears. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lana. What a lovely reading. And I agree. You can write about your grandparents as much as you want. Thank you for doing so. I'd like to welcome Penny Harter. Penny Harter lives in Mays Landing, New Jersey. Her poems have been published widely in journals and anthologies, and her literary autobiography appears as an extended essay in Contemporary Authors Autobiography Series, Volume 28, 1998, as well as in Contemporary Authors, Volume 172. A poem of hers was featured in American Life and Poetry, and journals such as Persimmon, Rattle, Tattoo Hideaway, Tiferet, and Windhover have published her work. Recent poems appear in the anthologies Poetry of Presence, The Book of Donuts, and Healing the Divide. Her essays and poems also appear in the writing guides Wingbeats, Exercises and Practice in Poetry, The Crafty Poet, A Portable Workshop, The Crafty Poet 2, and The Practice of Poetry. Her most recent books include The Resonance Around Us, One Bowl, Recycling Starlight, and The Night Marsh. With her late husband, William J. Higginson, she co-authored the Haiku Handbook, 25th Anniversary Edition, 2010. Harter was a featured reader at the 2010 Geraldine R. Dodge Poetry Festival, and she has won 3 poetry fellowships from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, an award from the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, the Mary Carolyn Davies Award from the Poetry Society of America, the first William O. Douglas Nature Writing Award for her work in the American Nature Writing, 2002, and 2 residencies from Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. Please visit her at her website, pennyharter.com. And both of our poets have put their books in the chat, but I know that you can find their books online just by typing in their names and the names of the books. So it's pretty easy to find them, and I encourage you to purchase these wonderful tomes, just incredible writing. Thank you so much. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Penny Harter.
Thank you, Dale. That was a much too, where did you find that long biography? It's also,
I go down rabbit holes.
It must be a while ago, because the most recent books are the 3 that I'm reading tonight from them. And in the order that I'll read them: A Prayer the Body Makes, Stillwater Days, and Keeping Time, Highland for the Journey. And I'll tell you a little bit about each one. But first, Lana, that was so beautiful. What a wonderful reading. And heartrending at times. But anyway, I am going to start. The first book, A Prayer the Body Makes, is a more personal book, and it's also, it reflects loss. It's some of the poems in the earlier part of the book were written closer to the time that Bill died. But it also attempts to lift up our spirits, including my own. That's why I wrote them. So I'm going to read 4 poems from that book, and then I'll move on. The first is a memory of Bill and my memory when we lived in Summit. We had moved back to New Jersey from Santa Fe, and there was this little diner, and sometimes we would go out and, to a reading or something, and then we'd be hungry, so we'd stop at the Prestige Diner. Marmalade. Sitting in our regular booth in the Prestige Diner, often on our way home from some poetry event or other, you always ordered eggs over easy and whole wheat toast. But we could never find those little plastic packets of orange marmalade in the small square dish by the napkin holder. Now that you're dead, do you still love marmalade? Before we knew you were sick, we were driving through a spring landscape, branches blossoming white, sweet and easy miles disappearing beneath our quiet tires, when suddenly you said, I can't imagine all this going on without me. How fluently the names Forsythia, Red Maple, flowed from our tongues that day. the engine of our life together, well-tuned and fuel-efficient. How can it be 8 years since you drove alone over the horizon? Yet I too have moved on, weathered lonely nights, betrayals of my own body. There is still marmalade, the sticky jar on my shelf almost empty. I spread it thickly on this morning's whole wheat toast, and its bitter sugar lingers on my aging tongue. Dearest, wherever you are, know the heart makes room for other loves, although I love you still, and I wish you marmalade on toast. Now this one, we have many wounds in the world these days, and this is called Healing the Wound with Honey. And the preface is, numerous studies have shown that difficult to heal wounds respond well to honey dressings. Did you know that? Certain honeys especially. Healing the wound with honey. It must have been inflicted in another life, this wound we can't remember, not even sure whose it may have been. Sometimes we feel a rift in the flesh, needing stitches, or a wound of the spirit that even the heavy blue dressing of the sky can't fix. An invisible fissure in the heart or brain, cradled in our arms, like a refugee child too damaged to weep. Sometimes we hear the bees whose sting is less important than their task of filling the comb for the queen, or the beekeeper in his white suit and gloves, humming back at the hive. We each have a job to do. The bees to gather honey, nectar, and transform it into honey. The beekeeper to steal the pot of gold. And what is our work who need to learn the art of scars? We must learn the names of honey, give it sticky sweetness to our tongues, fill our cupped hands with healing, and offer it to the ancestors of our still open wounds. So I taught high school English for many years, and this was a memory that sticks with me, and it took place in the English department book room when I taught her how to tie her shoes. A revelation, the student in high school who didn't know how to tie her shoes. I took her into the book room, knowing what I needed to teach was perhaps more important than Shakespeare or grammar. Guided her hands through the looping, the pulling of the ends. After several tries, she got it, walked out the door empowered. How many lessons are like that? Skills never mastered in childhood, simple tasks ignored, let go for years. This morning, my head bald from chemotherapy, my feet farther away than they used to be as I bend to my own shoes. That student returns to teach me the meaning of life, to simply tie the laces and walk out of myself into this sunny winter day. This is I love this one. This is the last poem from this book that I'm going to read, A Prayer the Body Makes. It has a prefatory quote from Stanley Kunitz: "The great clock of your life is slowing down, and the small clocks run wild." I am running again through the woods next to my childhood yard, my small legs dodging falling branches, thick brambles, maybe even poison ivy, as I gallop through some summer's sticky heat. I am running like our small bugle berry, named for wild blackberries, who dashed headlong into a tree upon our return from a treeless, sun-blind shore, and lived. I am running wild, though it's darker now, here in this new time zone, where the hours grow hollow beneath the mirror of the moon, a moon inching further from the earth each year. A great clock ticks on the horizon, but small clocks pulse within me, giddy with urgency, as I dodge trees and leap streams, trusting my feet to find firm ground beneath the flickering stars. Trusting my heart too, I think. Small clocks pulse within me, giddy with urgency. And that happens sometimes as we age. So Stillwater Days are poems that I wrote daily almost during the first months of the pandemic and posted online on Facebook saying, on my blog when I was catching up with it. I didn't care about journals. I wanted to share, I wanted to put out these poems to offer hope, to offer peace, calm. And sometimes the ones in the beginning of the book, particularly, I was kind of low, and then I wrote the poem as a gift to myself and hopefully to others to pull me up out of that. So this is called In the Distance, with a quote from Pablo Neruda, translated by W.S. Merwin. In the distance, someone is singing. Someone is always singing, especially at night in farmlands, when the drone of the day mutes, or in sleeping suburban neighborhoods, when a barking dog breaks the silence. The wind plays a part, stirring summer-laden branches to whisper together, or rain to clatter against our windows, its song a sustained chant against drought, promising even more green. This morning along the border of the local park, the mallows have opened their mouths to sing, pink, fuchsia, and white, their dark eyes focused on the sun, faces nodding in the light breeze. And someone is singing the blues from the din of cities, distant singers unknown even to one another. We must also heed the dissonant songs from those sleepless neon streets. What space separates us from someone singing? What expanse must we traverse to find the singer hidden among forgotten reeds, the one who dares to try to translate the eddies of the river between us? How far away are those who need our love, their distant songs wanting answer, reaching out to us at dusk and dawn, echoing our own loneliness, faintly calling for our antiphonal response? One of the things I tried to do was to point out the holy in the everyday, the significance of the smallest thing. And this poem is called Just Grapefruit. Carefully, I place half a grapefruit into the small white bowl that fits it perfectly. Use the brown-handled serrated knife to cut around the rim, separate the sections. The first bite is neither sweet nor bitter, but I drag a drop of tuor honey around the top. Love how it glazes each pink piece, then seeps between the dividing membranes. Pale seeds pop up from their snug burial in the center hole, and when I'm finished, I squeeze sticky juice from the spent rind and drink it down. Each grapefruit is an offering, its bright flesh startling my fasting tongue. When bitterness spills from the morning news, I temper it with grapefruit, savor hidden gifts as I slice it open, free each glistening segment, and enter honeyed grapefruit time. We all need honeyed time now and then, particularly now. Okay, I'm going to turn to the new book, Keeping Time, Haibun for the Journey. Does anyone not know what a haibun is? Basically, I'll say it very briefly. It is like a prose poem in blocks, not necessarily paragraphs, although some people even use verses of a poem and then put the haiku in. And with haiku inserted where they feel they should go. Sometimes before it, sometimes after it, sometimes in the middle. Some of them are very short. Some of mine are a page and a half, which I won't read tonight because they're pretty long. And what the haiku are supposed to do and supposed not to do, they're not supposed to continue the narrative. They're supposed to leap and yet relate. I think of it as throwing a pebble in a pond and watching the ripples. They cause ripples in the poem, but they need to relate in theme or mood. And that's the challenge of a haibun, finding just the right haiku and then where to put it. So that's a pretty long one. I'm going to skip that one. Well, the book is in 3 sections. The first section is pleasant, nice memories. There were 3 poems about Bill keeping, I keep your memories, we keep the hours. And then if I have time at the end, I might read Driving Through the New Jersey Dusk. But this one, the second section, you don't have to write about pretty things, and we all know that. And so the second section has this poem, Night Howls, which Tim published in Rattle, which was very kind of him. And Bill and I lived in a little house in Santa Fe. Behind us was a railroad tracks, wasteland, and then a gully. And then after that, there were more houses sort of on a ridge. Night howls. When the drunk neighbor across the tracks beats his dog again, the primal howling jerks us from a dreamless sleep. Once I used binoculars to see what manner of man yells, "Shut the fuck up" at a dog. After the fire, an acrid stench halos the burnt trees. How convenient for this man to have a dog. How practiced they both are at it. The dog on a short chain cowering behind his doghouse. The man descending the back stairs with yet another chain wrapped around his fist. Repeated whistle of the midnight freight. Headlight bearing down. Can you feel the connections between the haiku and the acrid stench is the neighbor, and the headlight bearing down is the whole situation, really. This is the title poem of the book, Keeping Time, which kind of reflects the cover. I miss the West. Keeping time. Am I going too fast for you? You sure? Okay. Keeping time. 2 hawks circle far above, afternoon sunlight gilding their wings as their shadows swiftly cross the road before me. In red canyons of the West, ravens ride the thermals, their harsh calls dark as the storm clouds shadowing the ridges. Again, that dream of refuge in a cave above the river. There is no other place but here, where hawks still prey on the living, ravens descend on the dead, and the clock on the wall keeps time above a granite countertop, its polished surface chilled by mountain winds. A gas burner spurts blue, steam hisses from the kettle, and between my palms a cup of black tea deepens as my breath rises warm through the strata of the sky. Nursing, the baby smiles, milk bubbling from her lips. I'm in my early 80s, and a lot of people tell me I don't look it, and I probably don't. I don't fuss with my hair or anything. I'm 83. I turned 83 on April 9th. But my body knows it, you know? And I'm a cancer survivor, and I made the mistake of getting 1 shot of Prolia. That was terrible for me. But anyway, this is a high one that's very true. And some of you may identify with it to one degree or another. At home in this body. I'm at home in this body where once an entire landscape flourished. Verdant hills and valleys, rivers to be forded, mountains fearlessly climbed. At home in this body where once flights of stairs like the bleachers in the football stadium during college could be raced up 2 at a time. Where youthful passions flared, pregnancies swelled and delivered 2 babies. Breasts gave ready milk. Slim and energetic, this body boded no betrayal, did not ache upon awakening or fear illness, another fall. Still at home in this body, the landscape narrowed to what's possible these later years. I celebrate what is. Survival after cancer and chemotherapy, after the new hip, after profound loss, yet continuance. Although some mornings like now, when the dream door cracks open to remind me of what was. I wake to sit on the edge of the bed, rocking my way back into now, this home. Another morning, my arms rise like wings in this autumn light. So sometimes you got to dare to name it. Thank you. Just a couple, maybe 3 more. I play sometimes. Where is it? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? There it is. This is a sort of a weird, playful poem. You had a few of those, Lana. Okay, it's called October Riddles. Opens with a haiku. Once again, I fail to accurately count the beans in a large glass jar. Kick through the growing drifts of fallen leaves to separate the red from the yellow. How many of each? If 2 clouds are drifting in different directions, which one will get there first? Multiply the time of day by the speed of the wind for an accurate map. How many spinning weather vanes know the answer? Elementary, those pesky word problems that haunt me still. Tally the clouds at sunset when they congregate on the horizon to sink into coral, purple, and finally dark smudges against the night sky. How many drooping sunflowers in that farmer's field are going to seed under infinite stars? Months of pandemic days have melted into lonely nights. What melted them? Will they fall off the edge of the earth? And so we go on, but when and where? Distant whistles of the freight train ride the gusts of wind. That was a fun one to write. Okay, if I may, I would like to close with 2, because they kind of go together. One is called Indigo Journey, and the other Searching for Omens. And the Searching for Omens is timely for what's going on today in the world. Okay, Indigo Journey. Toward morning, when dreams often rise from the depths of sleep, I dream a vast, almost indigo river, or maybe a fjord, and I am walking over this brilliance on a wooden footbridge with rope railings, walking out to a dock at the end to meet the small open ferry that will carry me across to the far shore. I trust this bridge mounted on sturdy pilings and take my time savoring the journey. Unpinning her hair, the elderly woman gives it to an autumn wind. A shining expanse flows to my right, darkens a little under the shadows of the bridge slats, then continues to my left, curving around a bend as it finds the horizon. Reaching the dock, I scan the waters ahead of me. No ferry in sight, just a vast body of blue. I know the ferry comes often to take travelers across that which cannot be bridged. But when I look behind me, no one else is queuing up for the ride. Carnival morning. Sun gilds the empty saddles on the carousel. Somehow, though, that's just fine. I'm right where I ought to be, on the verge of waking, maybe even ready to gracefully dive off the dock and float with the current, wherever it takes me. I know I will not drown. First time down the playground slide, the toddler trusts the landing. And the final one brings me back to the ravens. Searching for omens. Migrating across time, ravens have been omens, their raucous bodies dropping from the sky to finish the job on battlefields. And their corvid cousins, the crows, have often brought grim tidings, their coarse claws announcing the death they carry under their wings. For weeks I have been haunted by omens that witness these times, have seen these dark birds circling still. Inverting the toaster, I shake its burnt crumbs into the sink. But now I search for other omens, ones that might bring hope in times of pestilence and war, of senseless slaughter, cruelty, and greed. So I look to the simplicity of this morning's sunlight, the scent of fresh coffee, the miracle of an apple I can slice and pair with cheddar cheese. Blooming again in the neighbor's garden, a widow's rose bush. And as I break my nightly fast, I give thanks that I'm still here, having survived what we all must, my shares of sorrow, loss, illness, the turbulence of years. Perhaps I am here for this, to love the broken world, affirming again and again that even on those days when the dark birds haunt us, we must seek some sustenance in our daily bread and do whatever work we can to praise the light. Thank you. Thank you very much. So,
Thank you so much, Penny. That was lovely.
thanks, Dale.
I certainly appreciate the haiku at the end of the haibun, which is such a gift.
Well, you know, something else that some of you may be interested in trying. When I have encountered a poem that I wrote that wasn't working as a free verse poem, particularly a narrative poem, sometimes I'll just recast it into a haibun and then hunt for the haiku to put into it, and it changes it. One thing I neglected to say about haibun is originally it was a journey, a geographical journey, basho, walking the narrow path. But in recent times, it's come to mean any kind of journey. It can be an emotional journey. It can be a life journey. It can be you just have to get your way from here to there. So sometimes there's a turn in them. And some, as far as I'm concerned, it can even be, and there's some in there, half fantasy and half real. But there is a journey. And for me, a lot of these were a journey there's a lot I didn't read you about family, and a journey in self-discovery, a journey in revealing where I've been and who's been there with me. And so the earlier poems in the book are like that, some reflect childhood. But the ones in the last section that I read to you were ones that I wrote also during the pandemic and was posting. But when I decided to publish the pandemic poems, I pulled them out and just did the free verse poems in Stillwater Days. But they really kind of go together. So bless you all. I'm not probably going to hang in too long because I have an early morning doctor's appointment and it's after 10 here.
It's very late for you East Coasters.
Are you going to make this so that I can tune in later and hear the open, or?
Yes, I will continue the recording.
Good.
And
then,
you will have a link.
Because I would love to hear you all, but I think I better get ready for tomorrow.
Yes, sounds like you've got
been a wonderful audience. And again, Lana, thank you for inviting me, and y'all.
Thank you, Penny.
Oh,
We certainly
thank you so much, Penny. Such an honor.
Oh, well, I feel the same way about your work. So, and all of you who blessed me by coming. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Penny.
So how do I?
You can just say goodbye.
Oh, well, goodbye.
Bye.
And don't worry about how old I am. I'm young at heart.
Well, we can tell that. We knew that right away.
I say,
you go, sister. You go, sister.
Crone. We all go through a lot of crap, and one of the ways that we own it is to write our way through it. At least for me, and I know, Lana, you've done that. So
very good advice.
Go for it.
And we love to write. We all love to write.
And I will tune you in again in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Now it's time for our open mic. And Lana, if you want to read something in open mic, you can feel free to do that as well. Down below, there's a a thing that shows reactions. There's a button that shows reactions. Sherry found hers. And you just push on the raised hand. It says raised hand. And then I can tell you want to read, and I want to hear you read. I'm excited to hear everyone read. Bunch of wonderful poets here tonight. And Sherry, since you were the first one with your hand raised, we'll let you go first. And also, once you've read, please mute yourself again. You're going to have to unmute yourself before you read, and then mute yourself after you read. And I certainly appreciate it. And take your hand down after you read, so I don't get confused. Thank you. Sherry, love to hear what you have.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Lana. It was so great to be live and be able to hear you read. And thank you for mentioning what's been happening in Israel. It's been very upsetting, so I wanted to share a little happiness with you. So I won this contest, and it's in the state of Washington, but in Vancouver, where they call for bus poems. So the poem goes on the bus. And I've spent my life on city buses. And so here it is. I'll share it with you. It's called, oh, before I say, it's a love poem to my partner, and I come up to his stomach. So if you could just imagine. It's called Bending Down. I never thought I would fall in love with a tree, strong, wide boughs to blossom, white, smooth scars, lichen on your hefty trunk. Towering 100 feet, you bend down to kiss my lips, rub my back, and wish me a good day. On tippy toes, I wrap my hands around your neck. I ooze love for you like sap dripping from our cherry tree. You leave, turn, and grab your keys. Thank you.
Sue, would you like to read?
Yes, as soon as I can get it to unmute. Okay. I don't know whether to say anything about this or not, so I'm going to not. Death photos on Facebook. Your daughter sits vigil with you. When you open your blue eyes, she posts. When you sigh, she counts your breaths, tries to save the final ones with the camera on her phone. She's young. She doesn't know a soul cannot be digitized. Day after day I checked. Same image in the bed. So gray, so wasted. Still breathing while the kids, the ones we shared with the bearded man, watched and posted, collecting hearts and likes. Far away, I prayed. Today your breathing stopped. I read the Facebook post with a young smiling photo. Here you are with bangs. He loved you first, you know. In a happy video, you danced in blue jeans with a stranger. But I recognized those steps, his steps that baffled me. I'm just the second wife who tried to love your kids, who sat with our husband when he forgot your name, then mine, then theirs. No, I didn't post his photograph. It would have ripped your heart. But you came to the funeral to sit and share the grief. Are you in heaven dancing now in sync like longtime couples do? Do you want me at your funeral to sit with your kids, grandkids, and the red-haired greats, or stay behind my screen? I know we're only Facebook friends, but my house has many empty rooms. Would you mind if I cut in? Thank you.
That's so poignant, Sue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet lady with the pink sweater. I know Levin isn't your first name, but introduce yourself. I forgot your first name.
My first name is Carol. It's been Carol as long as I can remember. I have a poem, and it has a lot to do with Lana. There you are. Okay. And I think it only fits on a postcard. And I think Lana was the publisher of these groups of postcards that were contests. And I think that she chose me as the winner. That's what I think. It was a long time ago. It's titled, "And We Laughed About Heaven." When we arrived in heaven, 10 dogs, counting forward from our first in childhood, would be wagging greetings. We worried former wives and ex-husbands also would be in wait, but laughed at ourselves, remembering in heaven only the, now I lost my place, only the preferred, lost you again, will be restored. Laughed over the thought that we would be thought, relieved of the weight of our bodies. We laughed, gasping for breath until our sides hurt, and then we laughed because we were ourselves laughing together around the dining room table on Earth, where we can still feel pain.
So sweet. Thank you. Peter, would you like to read? Peter Gordon.
Yes, I would. Thank you. It's just great to be able to be back with so many of you, some on the West Coast and other places. So, my poem is about something that I don't know. Maybe you've all are experiencing this too, but I found that the older I get, the more it seems that younger women want to be my friend on social media. So I wrote about that, and I call it Irresistible. My social media feeds full of female jewelry designers who desire desperately to connect. Curiously, they all dress in tight shorts and tops or low-necked evening gowns, but don't display much jewelry. I wonder how many ears, noses, fingers, toeses must exist to hang all the jewelry so many accomplished women create. Jewelry designer seems like a great job, with time for pool lounging, fine wine, fabulous apartments in exotic cities like New Orleans, San Francisco, Singapore, and meaningful online relationships. Just my luck. All their achievements ring hollow without a mature, thoughtful, caring man like me. They've read my profile in detail, saw wild white hair, pot belly, but could not resist my poetic soul. I imagine us sitting side by side on ivory couches in high rises overlooking Golden Gate, sharing a carafe of Merlot. They'll confess secret desires while those strong, dexterous designer fingers strum up and down my flesh, playing skin like a violin achieving crescendo. With someone who sees every facet of your soul, 30-year age gaps melt away, they say. Ruby red lips brush my ear, whisper, no man ever made me feel this way. Diamond eyes hypnotize, and I become a bauble in their hands.
Peter, I think you must have taken my erotic poetry class in absentia.
It must have come to me. maybe I'm the only one, but it does seem like every person who wants to be my friend who's younger that I don't know lists their occupation as jewelry designer. I had no idea there were so many of them.
Oh, yes. We're magpies. Judith Montgomery, would you like to read?
I would. And that thought about him having been a secret ghost in your erotic poetry class, which I took on Saturday, also occurred to me. But Annette more. You forgot to tell me. You forgot to tell me I was still muted.
No, you weren't muted, and then you were, and now you are not.
I put my book down.
Oh,
Did something. I'm not a techie person. Let me start the second part again. Then, after listening to Lana's stunning poem about women as refugees, I thought I would read this one. There is an epigraph after photograph, Mariupol, Ukraine, 1941. Never. She bends above the child clutched at her waist, as though she could fold him back into her womb. Her shot body hangs at the brink. Still, she hoists the other kneeling boy by one staunch hand, as if to haul him back out of his future. His naked feet slip at the forest rim of a ravine choked with bodies whose present time is past, history, but not never past. Today I hold my grandson's hand high to keep him from a fall as he learns to shift up from his knees, struggles to walk alone. I want to reach into the cold photograph, seize the slipping child's arm, lift him out of the shot into a different present, but the frail print fixes him for death. When this mother falls, all three will fall, burdened by her dead weight. I cannot turn away from the page burned on my sight or from a family that could be my own. Thank you.
so sad. Liz, would you like to read?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lana. Thank you, Dale. This poem's called You Come Singing. Between terrified birds and oak trees and phone calls, between eastern breezes and wind from the towers, you come singing. Under the knowledge that music both haunts and saves, close to roots that love its bushes, you come singing. Out beyond barnacles and terrestrial seas, blind to the myths and stories, further than lodestones slumbering on earth, you come singing. Using words that both reveal and conceal, drawing out arpeggio and cantata, forming the notes in your throat, you come singing. Through beginner's luck and hocus pocus, and melodies of both blossoming and remains of language, within meters and pentameters, you come singing. Deep in cool sand offering its driftwood that horses ride over, beasts of clear sounds and promises, you come singing. Closer to the heart's understanding, the mind and its tentacles, the soul and its caverns, you come gladly singing. Thank you.
That's the second mention of the Neruda. In the distance, someone is singing. Wonderful.
Yes, and I modeled, I structured that poem after Pablo Neruda's poem called You Come Flying. Only I changed it to You Come
it's
Sing.
a double
Yeah.
nod. David Goodrum, would you like to read?
Thanks, Dale. And I was a little late to the party, but thanks, Lana, for a lovely reading, and Penny, who's no longer with us. I guess that's a bad way to say it, isn't it? who's taking a well-deserved nap right now. I'm kind of celebrating this week and reading the poem that won second place in the Oregon Poetry Association's members only category. It's about an accident that my brother had, and it's called "My Middle Brother Bleeding." And all the winners and everything are on the OPA site now. So, my middle brother bleeding. You catch your arm on a rusted bolt atop the neighbor's swing set. Metal threads ripping wide open and to the bone, the inside of your upper forearm. Somehow you raise yourself and loosen the hooked flesh. Dash across backyards to reach home. Blood spurting down to your wrist and hand. You forget to keep your open wound above the heart, but vaguely remember the advice not to swing until 30 minutes after eating, and don't try to fly on an empty stomach. You're so confused by astronomical facts. You shouldn't see other stars when the sun's out. Remember to bring a sweater to a planetarium. Heavenly bodies are closer than they appear, and the darkening space between you and the back door is a vacuum where you can't breathe and the temp seems below zero. Standing frozen on the steps, your little brother, who if you stop to ask would say, "Go get mom yourself," stares slack-jawed at the boxy white ambulance racing away. And for years at your Y-shaped scar and the dried red drops patterned like constellations on the driveway. Thank you.
Congratulations, David. That was a wonderful poem. And Penelope, would you like to read?
Hi. I wanted to also say to everybody that the prohibition against grandparent poems, I once did a workshop with A.R. Ammons, who went as Archie Ammons, and he read one of my poems and said, "Well, it's a good poem, but you can't write about grandparents." So I don't know if that was a particular generation that had that prohibition. Anyway, this poem is not about grandparents. And there's so much sadness in the world that this poem is called Spell the Word Joy. J-O-Y. The word ought to be bigger, longer, taller, wider, written in crystalline drops on the back of a shovel after the rain. Joy when the skin of a loved one is known by your hand. Joy of a dog rolling on a cow pie, a baby first finding her toes, or your same hand when a ripe plum drops into it. Your lips, teeth, tongue, savoring that plum. And you forget what day it is because it's now, N-O-W. And now, the joy of spitting the pit.
Thank you so much, Penelope. I'm never going to forget how to spell that word. Julene, would you like to read? And you need to unmute too.
Yes. Hello. Thank you tonight. Lana, I loved your first poem, Women as Refugees. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote after the Roe versus Wade. I was so disturbed by that, and we are in very disturbing times with everything right now. So this is a prose poem, and the title is Those of Us Who Aborted. We came out of broken homes. Our fathers died or went to jail. There were few role models. We grew used to making our own decisions, fast, early, distracted into sex, afraid of sex, wanting but not wanting. We knew it all, blown up in our certainty, We would not get caught until we were. Nothing we could do wrong or right. We would not get caught. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. And we were lucky to have an escape hatch. Abortion legal so long, 50 years. We had that luxury, took it for granted. We hid our secret. It was shameful what we did. Caught, sluts. We might have been raped. We were ruined. We gave it away and it went awry, determined to do no more. We were getting to know our bodies, how the pill made us sick but kept us safe. The copper 7 was a trial we could survive. The Dalcon shield ruined our uterine wall. Some of us survived. Men in our life supported us or left. Our families bent in or away, deserting us to the streets. Some of us had jobs, others not. We begged and went to work the same day our wombs were scraped. We had a partner with us or a girlfriend, or we went alone. We knew women used to die from this, and we didn't know if it would kill us. We were babies. Some of us had our tonsils removed, ate ice cream. Others never had surgery, didn't know you could walk in and out. We were a mess or ultra confident. We were angry, wanting a child, but the timing was off. Or we knew this was the right decision. We wanted to believe in something. Mixed with emotions that plagued us, did anybody understand? There was not enough time to make such a decision, but limited time to make it. Weeks, crunched now to 0. Thank you.
Very true. Sandy, would you like to read?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dale. And thank you to Lana and to Penny. It's been such a very deep, prismatic reading this evening with so many things to leap from. It was hard to choose what to share, but I'm just days away from turning in my manuscript for my second book to my editor. And of course, what am I doing? I'm writing poems to distract myself from finishing. So here's one of those distractions. It's called, and the book is called The Glass Studio, so it does make a little cameo appearance. It's called By Years, the Obstacles, at Night, the Scars. So I turn into a mystic, seeking to be the metal key that unlocks locks, or better yet, never going near a physical lock, just prying open any urge to wonder, to shepherd that conversation with others. It can happen in any city at any time: Vermilion, York, Walla Walla, Kalamazoo, at any motel check-in or eager roadside diner over any meal. Watch. You unbolt your mouth to release a sound, then close it before you speak and create space for the voice sitting next to you. You confirm this method when the hardware store in your hometown cannot make a duplicate key to save anyone's life, or more urgently put, to your father's glass studio. You return 3 times after 3 different clerks make adaptations to the previous key. You never knew making a replacement required a kind of magic, but now the Ace Hardware on Main Street has you reconsidering why you have trusted ground down grooves on a metal shaft to gift you entry into the unknown that exists behind any door. And what about those locks that can't possibly have keys? I've seen them lately on a drive to Providence. I stop at the scenic overlook, overgrown, off I-95 on the edge of Mystic. locked to the rusting chain link fence that suggests keeping anyone from jumping to the train tracks below, hundreds of padlocks dangling in the salty, mystic air. The mystic in me seeks out a placard, a sign, an historical marker, anything to reveal what's behind this random curtain of locks occupying the chains like birds populate a wire. Not even Houdini could hide that many lockpicks inside his mouth. I can manifest no logical or illogical explanations for what I witness. I drive away to Providence. Weeks later, I still see a ghost image of that scarred fence waiting roadside for some mythical locksmith to unhinge all from their mystic burdens. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. Dan, would you like to read?
Sure, thank you. At the returns and exchanges counter. Pardon me, ma'am. I need to exchange this mind I got for another. It doesn't fit. Too small, too big, binds in places, bags in others. So I'd like one not so fond of fretting about minnow matters when there's blue whale stuff to get upset about. One that turns off and lets me sleep at night, though the world's a train speeding toward a broken bridge. One that doesn't goad my body to nervous dread when I when I get a notice in the mail from the mortgage people, even though I know I've paid and it must be some computer-generated mistake printed on the bleached corpse of a once breathing tree. Or my cell phone rings with a mystery 888 number and unknown caller pops up. Spam, likely. But what if the phone's wrong and it's an important call? I've won the lottery. Or maybe my friend who said he'd get in touch when he crashed head on into a semi on Highway 58, as people do every year passing on that wicked curvy mountain road across the double yellow because they're sick of snailing behind a slowpoke. Don't snort. It could be, my friend. You don't know it all. Please, bring me a mind that will let me be a joiner, not an egghead introvert who never liked dancing, was and is ignorant of popular songs, spent his time listening to Mozart, and when he finally met a girl who didn't think he was weird because all he talked about was Plato and Aristotle instead of football and cars, didn't put the make on her. He got scared. So she thought he didn't like her and walked out the door, gone and gone. A mind that's sure of what it wants and knows how to get it without trampling on someone's fragile feelings. One that won't imagine while I'm driving that I'll decide out of nowhere to hurl the car at the nearest abutment, or that a van will skid on blue ice, water, or slime of malevolent origin, cross the divide and do it for me. One that doesn't steep in remorse for ignoring my Zen master's warning and missing my life. Though honestly, I tried not to. One that doesn't worry that I don't really know how to love. Never have, and likely never will, because my gray hair has turned white, and my feet are slipping on the ice, and I can't get a grip, while behind me, time pushes toward the cliff. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. So true.
Yes, sadly.
Nancy, I'd love to hear you read.
Oh, Dale, I'm just here listening to all these amazing poets, so I'm not going to read. I'm just enjoying every minute. Thank you.
There's another Nancy here too. Nancy's iPhone. We'll read.
Yeah, Nancy's iPhone, because she has not figured out how to make it keep the change designation that puts my last name in. So maybe another time. What I'm reading is from my book that's I've just published this year called Protagonists. My name is Nancy Benziger, and it's available on Amazon. In a universe parallel to that of a poet, I'm a biomedical scientist. And so one of the things we've learned over the last few years in the pandemic has come up a couple of times in this session. Some reasonable number of the fatalities of people who died of COVID did so because they had a gene that had come from Neanderthals that caused a very severe form of COVID. So that my poem is entitled Neanderthal. We were a patient people, a patient hominin. Many 100,000 years we lived, small in numbers, mostly in peace, coping with the cold just fine. We knew and loved beauty like you do, created it ourselves, mourned our dead, and sought for them a safe passage. We made progress, innovations. Everyone always wants to leave their stamp on the world. Loutish, beetle-browed brutes, not so much. Took you 52,000 years to figure that one out. So our Y chromosome vanished, the male one, but not the female one, and not the autosomes either. Outcompeted, discouraged into oblivion, you think? You took our women. You took them by force, figuring they were there for the taking in a 4-letter word. Down the march of history, our nucleotides have dispersed among the new ones. And now the domain of the disinherited strikes back. Thank you.
Wow, I just learned some stuff. Thank you, Nancy. Thomas, would you like to read?
I would. I'm very torn between a war poem and a good night poem, though. I think I'll say good night and not have the gruesome image to go to sleep to. Dear heart across the Rockies. Yes, I am writing again. No, you need not reply. I know you may have had that surgery to lengthen your shorter leg, or you may be considering it still, though you do disguise so well the disparity, and you know it is equally adored by me as the other. I know your life is overfull from work and creation and the comings and goings of a lengthening middle life. Still, mornings when the tide is right and the weather is fine in the saltwater cove, I find myself talking to you as I paddle out from shore. I want to hear your almost imaginary Eastern European accent exclaim pleasure at the sights of otter, osprey, a bright poplar leaf gliding yellow down to its twin in the water. And I want your silence after and your silence before. Yours in the hush of the wee hours. T.
I appreciate the leaf fluttering down to its twin in the water. That's such a wonderful way to say reflection. Wonderful. Stan, would you like to read? Stan, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, no. Okay.
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. The Hillsbury Literary Society's annual book review, Little Red Riding Hood. A European tale of a young girl, not a real name, no age given, sent by her vacuous single mother to navigate the woods, lurking dangers, to bring food to a bedridden grandma living alone in an uncharted forest, confronted by a menacing wolf, having just feasted on little pigs, yet still salivating for another meal. Bring grandma some flowers to complement these fine treats. The wolf quickly took the shortcut, cutting short grandma's existence. He then changed into Granny's attire. The what big eyes and what big mouth and what big teeth sequence nearly spelled curtains for Riding Hood. A nearby woodsman, bursting into the scene, rapidly ended this Wolfian carnal scheme. No one knows what ensued from this grim tale. Records were expunged. There's no chance for conjecture. It's nonsense.
I love the double entendre of grim tale. I guess I'm the last person, so I'll just read 50 words, which got published today. And it's about a morning, not the evening. So much alike. This morning, I am my mother, brisk, critical, full of cheerleader energy. The sun brims. Strong morning coffee, I drink black. Birds not yet awake. I listen for the Veery's notes to rise, the way bubbles rise in the percolator dome. Long gone mother's bright red lipstick on my cup's rim. Thank you so much, everybody. If you unmute yourselves, you can say goodnight to each other.
I would like to say goodnight and also to apologize. And I was rattled when I read my poem and I left off the last two stanzas. So I tried to put them in the chat and that didn't work. So I'm sorry for that. It was recognized with a prize in the Gregory O'Donoghue contest. And then I just left off the ending.
Well, you just send it to me and I will send it out in an email. If that's okay with you.
That's really sweet of you because I feel so bad for my poem. And
yes, I do want everyone to have the complete poem. So please send it to me.
It's very sweet of you. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Lana. You were incredible. And I can't wait to get your books. And I hope everybody buys Lana's books because she's a wonderful poet. And so are you all. You're all so wonderful tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us. And the two poets, the featured poets, read smashing poems. They were just wonderful and moving.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, Dale, and
Thank you
for all the open mic readings. I just really enjoyed all the poems. Thank you.
Yes, they were great.
Thank you for your hosting.
Oh, you're welcome.
You are just a beautiful, calming, like you get us through. I am a host and I am not that way. And so I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Thank you for thinking I'm calm. You've used a lot of imagination.
Maybe measured is a better
Yes, measured.
word. How's that? Okay, very good.
Good
And
night,
Thanks to all the
everybody.
poets.
Thank you, Peter, for making.
Yes, thank you for making it.
I'm so glad when I have this opportunity, and
Thank you,
it's
Peter.
always great to hear everybody.
My sister went to bed long ago.
Well, it's wonderful to see everybody.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Julie,
Head for the
It's
hills
special for you.
rocks.
Good night. Night, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Night.
Hope to see you
Time
in
to
a
go
few
eat.
weeks.
Good night, everybody.
good
Night.
night.
Thank
Night.